Alright guys, it's time to make these tires fit. What's up, Grappler fans? The Platinum is looking right on these 38s. I'm very happy with the look, but I cannot turn. If y'all watched my last video, I showed you how I got these mounted up. We did a test fitment. Make sure you check that out for a detailed install on how you get these wide tires on these skinny wheels, as well as where I rub. But I'm going to go ahead and move the truck a little bit, get a better spot, show y'all once again kind of where it rubs, just a ballpark idea. And I've got something in my pocket that I'm going to try to fix my issues with, something cheap that I want to give a shot before I get crazy with this thing. But I think I can make this 1-inch leveling kit on 38s work without cutting anything. That's my plan, at least not grinding any metal or anything drastic. So let's get this thing moved over to a better spot, better lighting, and get me comfortable. It's hot already out here this morning, but I think we might have a little bit of progress to make to be able to drive this thing to work. Need to go ahead and get old Buster the cat eye out of my way first though. We got her moved over here in the shade. Let me show y'all again how much I can turn before it rubs, and try to give you an idea of how much this thing rubs. As y'all can see, it rubs pretty bad, so I'm gonna go grab some stuff out of the shed and hopefully remedy that, at least to where it's drivable. Now, I am gonna have to keep in mind where the tire is when I'm turning and hitting a bump, because I'm on 1-inch leveling kit in 38s. I mean, it's not gonna fit like with plenty of clearance, but I want it to be able to clear where I can at least turn sharp enough on flat ground to be able to get in and out of parking spots and stuff like that. So let me get started on this and I'll show y'all what I'm doing. So here's the plan. I'm gonna make my own bumper spacer. Now you can buy a bumper spacer kit from anywhere from $30 to $130 or more dollars. But basically, it moves the bumper forward, gives you more clearance here. You don't have to cut anything, and as long as you don't go too far, it's not a drastic, change. You don't really notice it. Now, I had like a 1-inch one on my old truck. Wasn't bad. Truck was very high, didn't really notice. But I want to do a little bit smaller one here. And this was kind of a spur of the moment idea. I went and got some nuts to make my own. So let me show you what I got. I've got 4 of these big honking oversized nuts that will loosely fit around the bolt because they're so much bigger. They are about a 1/2 inch thick, and then I have some slightly smaller ones. So these big boys are gonna go behind these 2 here, spacing out the bumper, and then the smaller ones are gonna go right in here with this little support bracket for the bumper. So ideally, that will give me enough room. I think I might have went a little overboard on the size of these. I don't know if I'll be able to get those bolts started again, but I've got plenty of thread left on these bigger ones. So we'll give it a shot, and I'm gonna try to do it one side at a time so I don't have to realign the bumper completely. Now I've got my impact out here, but you could do this with a socket. I've got a 13mm for the smaller bolts and an 18mm for these bigger ones. So I'm gonna give that a shot, and then once that's done, I'm gonna show you what else I need to do with this little razor blade here. Got the first one in. It wasn't as good of a fit as I had hoped. I had to flip this bracket around so it's not quite as tight and solid of a fit as it was before because of the way I've got it oriented, but I'll show you how I did on the other side. You can see here I've got this space and it's pushing forward on the bumper. Once I loosen up these two guys here, the main supports, it'll let it come forward and I'll get the spacer in there. Hopefully the nuts I got there aren't too big and should be able to get enough threads in there to get it tightened down safely. Got the driver's side done. You can see it's spaced forward a little bit here. A little bit more than I thought it would do actually. So hopefully we have enough clearance. I'm going to do a quick clearance check, see if I can get past this fog light bracket that's been my issue, and go from there, see if I want to keep going with this project. Now we just got to do something about that. I might make a slight change to the plan. I have the big nuts spacing out the main supports here, but I didn't like how I had these smaller ones attached here, just because the bolts aren't quite long enough, and that's why when you buy a bumper spacer kit it comes with new bolts. But this little bracket in here is super flexible, and that's why I didn't really like how it was attached, because it was not supporting the bumper enough. So I'm going to see if I can reattach it with the stock bolts in the stock location and see. It doesn't look like it's really gonna pull the bumper back any. I think I'll be able to get it in just like it was meant to be from the factory, and all my spacing will be done just with the main support bolts right there, so I won't actually need spacers there. In that case, this could have been a $3 project instead of a $4 project, pretty much, because I would have saved the 40 cents each on those nuts. This is how this bracket's supposed to attach, with the heads of the bolts on the front, but it's super hard to get to, so I'm just gonna put it back like I had it after I installed this bumper. And let's see, flip it around this way, put it on here. It's slightly loose, but once you tighten it down, it's all fine and dandy. So let's see if that works. Alright, I'm pretty confident that that did not affect my spacing at all. You can see I got it tightened down in the factory location, factory washers, everything, no spacer. So here's the two nuts I bought for that, and it's looking like you only need a couple of these big 1/2 inch or so nuts to go on these 4 main mounting bolts. Those other ones will bend just enough, and look, it's still nice and tight like the stock one. Here's the other side. I haven't messed with it yet. Just as much flex. It was a little bit flexy before with the spacer, so I'm happy with it right now. I'm going to continue with putting these two nuts on and see if we got a nice even bumper that is sturdy but gives us a little bit extra clearance with that spacer. You definitely see a difference here. We've got a lot more space on the side that's done. Let's give the other side the same treatment, and hopefully we'll be able to turn. Now that I know that that side support can stay as is, I'm going to leave it completely. I'm not even going to loosen the bolts on it, and I'm going to try to take these two out. The bumper's going to kind of sag a little bit, and I'm going to squeeze those little washers in there, or the big nuts actually, and then try to tighten this back down. And when I do, I'm going to support the bumper up so I don't end up with a crooked bumper. Get back up, check, make sure everything looks straight. I'm going to go ahead and take these two out, both of them, and then squeeze that nut in there, and then hopefully we'll have a nice spaced out bumper. Alright, so we got this little plate here. Now I need to get this nut in between the actual mounting point of the frame and this nut, so I got to get this little, they have these retaining clips on the back of these that keep the nut from falling out. I got to get that all the way out. The nut has to come all the way out so I can squeeze, excuse me, the bolt's got to come all the way out so I can get that nut in there. This one's not wanting to come out. You can see here the difference between the frame part and the bumper as I jiggle it. So we got to squeeze this fat nut in between there, and it takes a little bit, especially with everything still tight. I may need both my hands for this, but kind of pull the bumper forward, and I went in through the top, I think, last time. Yeah, I might have to loosen those side ones here. We'll see, at least with both hands. But I got to get this guy behind this black piece and in front of that chrome piece on the frame. But I think I can get it out enough. Just need both my hands. There we go. That one's about perfect. You can see that one's in there. And just got to get this other guy back in there. Should be a little bit easier this time. Maybe. Oh, that one fell. This is kind of a two-hand job, but get those both lined up in there, and then you can get your backing plate put back on and tighten them down. Make sure it's nice and straight, and it should be smooth sailing, hopefully. All right, I can feel that I'm through the nut, starting to get into the plate here. Let's see if this is lined up right. There we go. You can see I've got a good amount of threads still, and now they're a little bit snug. I'm going to push up on the bumper, try not to get my grimy hands on my freshly painted bumper, and then tighten these guys down. And that should be it for this install. Yeah, you can see how much the bumper moves there. Chrome sockets all the way, nice and jiggly too, just so you have a little bit of excitement and you might break something right off in your face. So definitely recommended to use impact sockets, but I like to party.
Why do you want to listen to the TV with the stereo on?
Because I like to party.
I just went back and tightened them down some without the extension because I didn't like how much play was in my whole setup here, and I got a couple more turns on it. So I think we're nice and secure now. Pretty happy with it. I'm going to get up and look, make sure everything looks straight. I didn't mess with the side, and I kind of pushed it up about as much as I thought, but you really don't want, you know, a crooked front end on here. It's pretty noticeable, especially on this freshly painted bumper that looks so nice in this pearl color. So I'm going to look it over real good and see what y'all think. Hopefully this install did the trick, but we'll see. I still have a little bit of work to do to get these tires to fit on the back side. Alright guys, I got the homemade bumper spacer kit installed. Now if you're worried about the nuts being too big, you might want to get longer bolts, or you can get a slightly smaller one. I thought that this wasn't going to do that much, but check this out. I mean, I got a pretty good amount of space here for these 38s, and if you're not trying to fit such a huge tire on here, you could do this with some smaller washers, whatever. I'm just trying to say, get creative here. You don't have to spend $100 on somebody's kit just because they say it's way better. I mean, these bolts that are on here from the factory have plenty of thread on them to go a little bit farther, and we'll see, but I think that's going to do it. And I just checked my receipt. I spent $2.50 on those 4 nuts that I used. So I bought the other 4, which were like 40 cents a piece, that I didn't even use. They're down there on the ground because that one bracket is so flexible. So these 4 main bolts are really all you need to worry about spacing out, unless you're going like an inch and then the bracket might be, you know, too stretched. But I think this is pretty doable, looks great, and it's not like hacking your truck up, because that's the last thing I want to do to this beautiful platinum, is start cutting it up. Now to get to the back side, I already know that this cloth wheel well liner on this passenger side comes down farther than on the driver's side, and I'm gonna have to cut that to match the other side. I did that when I was leveling on 37s on my King Ranch. Let me show you how the other side looks. This is the driver's side, and as you can see, instead of it coming straight across the bottom, it's got a nice you know, swept back look, and that gives you just enough room for the tire to get in there. I may have to trim on this side a little bit since these are 38s and not 37s, but I didn't last time. So let me cut the other side to match this, and then we'll see if we can turn all the way. And I'm not trying to get crazy out here, but I may just bend this corner just slightly with a piece of wood, because it did rub on this nut here some, and I don't want to yank that and end up bending my fender. So we'll give it a shot and see if we can do this, make this 38-inch 1550 wide tire fit in here without any cutting. I think it's easiest right now without being able to turn the wheel fully to just get in here from the back, and I'm going to try to cut this liner something like this. Try to match it with the other side best I can. I think it comes back down, but we'll see. We'll just try to make it look factory and clean. It's very unnecessary for it to be this big. You can see there's nothing back here behind it, so we'll just make a little bit of room so that tire can get in here without vibrating this thing and grabbing it and ripping it out. Ah, broke my razor blade. It's time to use a new blade anyway. Oh, I'm about out. Oh, I got a little nub now. Might be able to get that back in there. Nope. That's unfortunate. Alright. Trying to turn the razor blade while it's in there is not the best idea. It's always better to cut less at first, and then if you need to cut more you can, but you don't want to look like you hacked this thing up. Here's the size of the piece that I cut off. You can see it looks a lot more like the other side now. I'm gonna bend this little area back a little bit because I'm pretty sure it's gonna need it. Nothing too crazy. You can just see it's kind of leaning forward, and I'm gonna try to make that straight. Just give us a little bit extra room there so I'm not rubbing paint off with my tire. And I'll do a test drive, and if I'm clearing this wheel well liner, then we'll be done. Let me go grab a piece of wood and see if I can't bend that. This trusty old hammer here is going to do the trick. But I'm not going to beat my nice truck with this thing. I'm going to use the back end of this thing as like a soft pry bar to just bend this little tab just enough to keep this nut from rubbing. Let's see if this will work. I probably should have tried this before I tried to film it, but you get the idea. It's very flexible, so it's kind of just bending right back. But I'm gonna keep working it a little bit. You can see it kind of stayed that time. Just giving myself slightly more room without hurting anything. I mean, if you do it enough, you're gonna weaken the metal, but we're just massaging it a little bit here. We're not beating this thing to death. That's giving us a little bit of space. I'm gonna keep working at it and see if I can get a nice, you know, smooth edge so that it's not funny looking. Alright, that's what I ended up with on this side after about 30 seconds of manipulating it. You can see it's nice and flush there. It doesn't come in towards the tire anymore. So let's see if that did the trick. I'm going to go do the same thing the other side. Let's take a look at it just to show y'all again how it looked before. You can see it's sticking out a little bit more there. We'll see if that does the trick. The other side, manipulate it a little bit, and let's see if that's enough. Just a little bit of wood handle pressure instead of beating that thing with a hammer, and let's see if we can get a full lock turn out of this thing. That's called precision right there. Look at that. That is super close. Look, the little tread nipples are almost touching it. Oh, we got a mile on this side. Look at that. That's awesome. Let's try turning the other way. We're close, but she's in there. Let's see if our trimming worked on the wheel well liner. I think we're all gonna be all right. Let's go for a test drive. All right, I'm going through my front ditch. See if we can't get a little flexing going. See if I can still make this turn. I got the wheel turned pretty sharp. We're bouncing around a little bit. No traffic coming for once. Don't hear any scrubbing. Look at that, boys and girls. $2.50. We're out here not scrubbing on 38 by 1550s with a 1-inch leveling kit. Now, don't go out there and put some 38s on your nice new truck and then hit a bump while turning and ruin your truck and say I told you to. This is not recommended. 37s on a leveling kit is already a lot, and most people will tell you it's too big. But I've seen it done. I've done it before myself. I knew these 38s wouldn't be that much bigger, even though it's a 1550 wide tire instead of a 38, or instead of a 1350. Now let me turn left here. This is a super sharp turn. I'm trying to go that way, so this is like more than a 90-degree turn. And let's see if I can do it, because I'm pretty sure I can turn all the way till I hit the radius arms, which is pretty dang sharp. It's not quite full lock. I'd say it's 90%, maybe 85. Let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and start turning. Just see how much turn I can get. Look at that, dude. I'm turning for days. We got some traffic coming, but I'm gonna go for it because I trust it. Look at that. That's so cool, man. I can't believe I'm on 38s with a 1-inch leveling kit. I didn't cut anything. Now, if you count that cloth wheel well liner with a razor blade as cutting, then you're a rookie, because if you ain't scrubbing, you ain't doing it right. But I'm on 38s with a 1-inch leveling kit, no metal cut, nothing crazy. I used some 1/2-inch big old fat nuts as a spacer that were $2.50. I cut the wheel well liner with a razor blade, and I manipulated that corner with a piece of wood. Now, y'all may think this is cheap, not the best idea, not something you want to do to your truck, but that's why I'm on 38s and you're not. I mean, it is not something for everybody, but this thing just looks so good. Let's get some clips of this thing from the outside. Alright y'all, there it is. 38 by 1550s on 20s with a 1-inch leveling kit. I've said it before, but I cannot believe how well I can turn with this setup. Everybody said, lift it higher, lift it higher. Those are too big. You're crazy, you're gonna ruin your truck. Well, that may be true, and that's probably a good idea, but I just want to see if I can do it. And come on now, this looks awesome. I'm so happy with how well these things fit in here. These giant Ford wheel wells are just asking for some big old mud graps, and it just came out so nice. I'm so happy with how this thing looks now. I don't think I could ever go that much higher on one of these trucks. Now my next truck, if I ever do sell this thing, because I'm starting to fall in love with it, my next truck is going to be real big and over the top, but for the money, one of these F-250 6.7s on some big old mud graps, you cannot beat it. I hope y'all like what you see. If you have any questions or you have any recommendations on what I should do with the Cat Eye Chevrolet, be sure to comment below. Make sure you subscribe and check me out on Instagram, GRAPPAHOLICS. Thanks so much for watching.